Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1594B, and today's date is June 18th, 2018, and the title of the episode is All Connections, Scams, Corruption. It's all about to explode. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, out in Europe, we understand that certain leaders, Soros, they're still pushing the same agenda. The European Union is still trying to push the one world government, having the refugees flow into Europe, blend the countries, make sure that each country has open borders, and there are certain countries that are fighting back. There are other countries where they're still pushing the idea of terrorism, taking away your rights, and we see out in France and Paris is now putting up a bulletproof wall around the Eiffel Tower to combat potential terrorist attacks as part of a project unveiled by city officials. Now, they're putting up a barrier that will be placed around the Eiffel Tower, and it's a 10-foot panel. They're about 2.36 inches thick, and there'll be 450 in total on the northern and southern parts of the Eiffel Tower, and it will surround the tower. Now, once again, this is all being done because of all the past terrorist attacks. Most of them are false flags. We basically went through all of them in the past, but they're using all of this because what they're trying to do is they're trying to keep everyone afraid. They're trying to remove everyone's rights, and they're still in that mindset. They are still pushing that agenda. They have not stopped. I mean, if you look out in Germany right now, Merkel's in trouble. I mean, right now, she's fighting within her own party, and there are certain individuals that don't want the illegals in the country, just like the Czech Republic doesn't, Poland, just like Italy, and many other countries. They're going to be pushing the same thing. Now, the German police in Germany will start unilaterally turning away migrants who applied for asylum in a different state if Chancellor Angela Merkel fails to negotiate an EU-wide solution. And this is coming from Interior Minister Horst Seehofer. And we can see there's a battle going on, and Merkel, she's in trouble right now, and we'll have to see how this all plays out. Now, of course, Trump is out there saying that the German people, they don't want Merkel, but once again, we'll have to see how this works out, how this all goes, and we can see right now that people are saying, listen, we don't want this to happen. It's funny how the politicians, they're not listening to the majority of the people. They're listening to themselves and others because they're on a set agenda, and they're not listening to what the rest of the country really wants. That's what happened here in the United States. And now other countries, they're starting to basically do what we did here. They're saying, you know something, we don't want that leader. We rather have this leader. And they're outspoken. People are coming out and they're saying, yes, this is what we want. We see the U.S. has issued a list of about 47 demands to North Korea for the denuclearization. And we know that all of this is moving forward. North Korea is on board. But what's very interesting is that the deep state, they are still trying to push the idea that North Korea is going to be attacking the United States. Now, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, they're saying that they have identified malicious cyber activity by the North Korean government, and they might try to cyber attack the U.S., which is kind of ridiculous because they just had the peace summit. The president just met with Kim Jong-un. They're talking about denuclearization, and Kim Jong-un can now leave the country and travel to other countries. Why would they cyber attack the United States? It makes no sense. And they're saying the malware is a variant known as Typeframe. And they're saying that this is part of North Korean's government, and it's called Hidden Cobra. Now, this is the deep state where they're trying to push their agenda to reverse everything that is done. Because remember, the deep state, they don't want peace. This was their country. They were controlling it. They were inside. And basically, all of that completely fell apart. The same thing is happening out in Iran. Now, out in Afghanistan, what we're seeing is that there was a ceasefire deal during Ramadan. And right now, Ghani is offering to extend the ceasefire another 10 days after Ramadan is over. And what we're seeing right now is that the Taliban leaders issued a statement saying that the successful ceasefire proved how unified the group was, and also that their leadership enjoys wide national support. They noted in particular that their fighters were welcomed into the cities during the brief pause in fighting. So they might accept this ceasefire for another 10 days. We'll see what happens. But we can see this is the track that Putin and others are trying to push this country into, where the fighting is going to come to an end. Actually, opium production has increased like 100 times since the U.S., the deep state, got involved in this country. Why? Because they took over the poppy fields. They guarded the poppy fields. They used the poppy fields to pay for their covert operations. Before the U.S. was in there, opium production was really, really low because the Taliban had control over all of this and basically kind of went out and destroyed the poppy fields. When the deep state got involved, the opposite happened. And you can see wherever the deep state goes, they destroy countries as they move through it. Now, out in Syria, we see the opposition. They're preparing a list of representatives to the Constitutional Committee. This is all part of the agreement. And the opposition has a list of about 100 names right now, half of which were picked by the Syrian Higher Negotiation Council, while the other half was picked by the Russian-backed Moscow Platform and the Saudi-backed Syria's Tomorrow Movement and the independent Tyra Kama. And basically what they're going to be doing is they're going to be working on this constitution, new constitution, whatever it turns out to be. We'll have to wait and see, but this was all part of the agreement. So things are moving in that direction once again. And we also see that a high-ranking rebel commander, he was assassinated. And this is just another high-ranking rebel commander. Now, it looks like either, number one, this is a mop-up operation. The deep state is killing the commanders so they can't talk. And they're just mopping up everything because you can see everything is breaking down in Syria and it's not going well. But that's not going to stop the deep state because we're getting word, and we talked about this before, from Russia that another false flag is being planned. And this is in the Al-Tanf area where the United States, the deep state, has a base. And right now, they're saying that preparations are being made by U.S. Special Services in coordination with the Islamic State in the region to stage a provocation identical to the kind that took place in Duma. So once again, Russia is pointing the finger saying, we're seeing what's happening here. We have the intel, and we're just letting everyone know they're planning for another false flag. The deep state is stuck. They don't know what else to do. They're trying everything and anything to get a war started. I mean, you hear reports that the United States has been hitting Syrian forces and things like that. It's all turning out to be fake, phony, and false. They're trying to push the agenda. And remember, they control the corporate media outlets. They can push propaganda like there's no tomorrow. Just like they pushed the propaganda with North Korea, that North Korea was going to bomb the United States at any moment. And this was all about fear-mongering. Getting the people all afraid that we'd have to go into North Korea and attack North Korea and remove Kim Jong-un and take control of the country. That's what that was all about. They're doing the same thing in Syria. They're using propaganda to push their agenda. It's pretty much the same thing. And this is how the deep state works. They use propaganda to push the people into doing things they normally wouldn't want to do. And they've done this in the past, and they're still trying to do this. But at every turn, they're being shut down. Now, Q is out, and Q dropped a lot of breadcrumbs. And we're going to go through some of them today, and we'll be picking it up tomorrow because there's just a lot of them. Now, we're going to start off with Post 1506. This is June 15th. And an Annan wrote, Q's post about a morning stroll came out after the president's tweet. How is it a proof? Q, check timestamp 18 stroll 32 POTUS 5x5 Q. Now, and Annan looked at this and looked at the timestamps and decided, okay, let me use what's called the Q clock. And when the Annan put these numbers and figured out the calculations, it turned into a peace sign. And when you look at it, you can see that it is a peace sign. And basically what that means is that we're having peace. Now, the peace sign originated from the UK as a symbol for the campaign for nuclear disarmament. So it looks like Q is telling us that we're seeing nuclear disarmament in North Korea. And I think this is a subtle signal that North Korea is no longer a nuclear threat. They are disarmed, and the cabal has lost. Post number 1507, June 15th. Q, I know confirming the Q proofs is going to be tough and will also flood the bread. We need some type of guidance. What should we have ready? I know you work for us, USA, but we Annans work for you. Tell us what needs to be ready. And this is coming from an Annan. Q responded, we'll inspect, review. Marine 1 proofs forthcoming. AF1 inside thereafter. More and more Q. Now, you understand that we talked about this before. It's Q proofs. And basically what's going to happen is Q proof section is going to be added to the Q Annan pub. This is where all the drops are being put, and all these proofs are going to be coming in, and they're going to be high quality infographics that make these complex subjects digestible for everyday people so they can understand what's going on, and they're going to explain everything. And it looks like now Q is going to be breaking it down so everyone just can read it and understand what is going on here. Post 1508, June 15th. Manafort behind bars. President rips FBI scum. This is coming from Drudge Report, and Anon posted that up there. And Q responded, plants need water. Q. Now, we know from past Q posts, Manafort was a plant. And basically he says plants need water. But a plant by whom? Well, this was a plant by Podesta. So basically, a Democrat plant literally was running Trump's campaign, and Trump still won. Speaking of which, Annan has a theory about this. Manafort was planted by Podesta Group as their inside man to pass info to John Podesta and Hillary Rodham Clinton, thereby preventing Trump from winning. Except Trump did win. They weren't planning on this. Now Manafort is a loose end. So what do? Burn him? Russian collusion? But offer him a way out. Hey, Paul, we'll stop loading you up with indictments and prison time if you start making stuff up about Trump so we can impeach him. But Manafort doesn't appear to be cooperating. Thus, he's in jail. Here's what I think is happening here. Trump knew Manafort was a plant from the get-go. I think the Patriots knew that Manafort was a plant. Actually, Q told us that Manafort was a plant. And what did Trump do anyhow? Well, Trump hired Manafort, takes him to the side, and whispers, hey, Paul, I know that they put you up to this. I know that you're a plant. It's okay. I'm not mad. Because when they fail, I'm the president. I'll have your back when they burn you. But get ready, because when that time comes, we'll need your help. Otherwise, you go down with them. So, is Trump going to save Manafort? Maybe. Now, let's move on to post 1509. And an Anon put up some screenshots of Obama and this Pakistani man on a couch, and basically Q came back, said, have you identified the other person? Search Hussein admin, no facial hair, obtain name, cross FBI, security clearance, no, why, origin, Q. And there was also an article in a magazine, and basically it was talking about Barack Obama and his wild drug taking roomie. And the question is, who is this individual? And if we go to post 1510, which is June 15th, Q says the following. Why are Hussein records sealed? Unusual. Why did 42 Hussein admin staff obtain FBI bypass? No background checks. IT scandal A1. access to classified emails, summary, security meeting notes, briefing, etc. No FBI background check or clearance. Purpose, Pakistani leak. MB, Muslim Brotherhood infiltration. Inspector General report on Hillary Rodham Clinton email handling means little. Keep your eyes on the ball. POTUS is not going through this for nothing. Watch the vid again if you need clarity. Speech that will get POTUS elected. That was the video that we showed about how Trump is going to drain the swamp and things like that. There's so much evil and corruption. It's horrifying. We owe it to our children. I'm going to continue with post 1511 here. And basically what Q does is lists the people under Obama when he was president. And Q says, search foreign posts, state, face important. Now, an anon took this and found out who it was. And this individual is Sohail Siddiqui. Q confirms it. And there is a photograph of this person who's older. He has facial hair. And Q's instructions and hints, for some reason, were a little off, saying, look at the facial hair, no facial hair, part of Obama's administration. And this individual doesn't seem to be part of the administration. But let's go through who this individual is. Now, this guy doesn't work for Obama. Siddiqui's father was an arms dealer in Pakistan and London, working with Mika Brzezinski's father, National Security Advisor Brzezinski, in the 80s on a secret CIA ISI program called Sovmat that involved buying weapons from Eastern Europe and China through shell corporations. Then an anon theorizes that Obama's 3-week visit to Karachi in 1981 is the source of the soon-to-be-released AK pic, where he may be shooting either a flag or an American citizen. So we have to move on to post 1512. And Q says, note, Clinton Foundation children drop in the Inspector General report. Important. Official doc statement. The beginning. Not all are awake. So let's move to post 1513, where Q puts up, and he says this is Hussein's cabinet staff, who used private email addresses, what was the purpose, and it's Hillary Rodham Clinton, James Clapper, and he goes through the list of people, Rod Rosenstein and the rest, and they all used private email addresses from Google. And if we go back to a post by Q, it shows that Q or somebody was at Google, had a guest pass, and got information from Google, which is very interesting. And there was a private email network set up in North Korea by Eric Schmidt. Now, Eric Schmidt, he was the CEO of Google. So basically, Eric Schmidt resigned from Google, but they were setting everything up in North Korea, and they were using these private email addresses. And again, Q is saying that they have the drafts of all these emails. And Q went on to say that future proves past, news unlocks Q. Then we're going to move into post 1514. Now, within post 1514, there's post 1279 and 1278. So let me go to 1279, or I'll go to 1278 first within this post 1514. It says precursor, and there's red arrows pointing to certain words. Some top eyes on first are calling for immediate arrests. Reveal Gmail draft comms. Now, this was back in April 26. This is post 1278. Now, post 1279, and Anon says to Q, thank you for arriving. Frustration is very high. Can marshals physically remove text, tapes, etc.? Q then points to that post 1279 and says, we have it all, with an arrow. The right people have the information. Think Google, Eric Schmidt. Think of the many drafts that they have, Gmail communications. And then at the bottom of this post 1514, Q says, we have it all. Huber, remember, he's the one who's going to be prosecuting. And he says, news unlocks. basically saying they have all the information they need right now. Now, the IG report confirms Obama lied about Hillary's email server. So the Inspector General report tells us that Obama lied. He knew about it, and they were all using it. There were 13 individuals with whom Clinton had direct contact using her ClintonEmail.com account. And this is in the IG report. Now, this is very interesting because we can see there's a lot of information in this report, and this is the modified version, the redacted version, and the other version, which is not modified. This is what they call the Rod Rosenstein version. That report, which is not modified, not redacted, or anything like that, has all of it. Now remember, who is testifying today? Well, Horowitz. He's supposed to be testifying today, the 18th. So we see right now with post 1515 and 1516, Q gives us this whole diagram of the corporate media. And Q says, these reporters and networks have been named in the WikiLeaks to have colluded with the DNC or Hillary campaign during the 2016 election cycle, and lays out all different ABC individuals, David Muir, Diane Sawyer, George Stephanopoulos, John Carl, and it goes through all the names: Bloomberg, CBS, CNN, Huffington Post, MSNBC, NBC, NPR, New York Times, Politico, Washington Post, Washington Journal, and it just keeps on naming more and more news outlets that were all colluding in this. And we see right now that Q at the bottom of all this says, Huber, recent reveal by Sessions, November start, Hillary Rodham Clinton panic, deal request, DEC think Huber, coincidence, you have more than you know, news unlocks past, map. So basically, Q is saying that all these individuals colluded. Huber has started the investigation back in November, and all of this is moving forward right now. Post 1517. Q says, reread last post. Huber started in November. What else was slated to happen in November? 11.3, Podesta indicted. 11.6, which is November 6th. Huma indicted. Do they know? And Q comes back and says, Inspector General started long before Huber setting stage. Important note. So Horowitz started way before Huber was there. Think Inspector General equals FBI, Huber equals Department of Justice. Why are we emphasizing this given the world is watching? Strategic. Or they already know, hence CEO political mass resignations. So people are resigning. People in government are resigning. CEOs are resigning. And we can see that a lot of people are running right now. Q also says, careful of clickbait. I guess there are certain individuals using clickbait to get attention and bring people in the wrong direction. Now, an anon in post 1518 on June 16th said, to all those not getting it, on November 3rd, Huber made a sealed indictment, and most likely that was Podesta. November 6th, Huber made a sealed indictment that was against Huma. Q said, well done, anon, shows commitment. So Q just confirmed that is what happened during that period of time. Now, post 1525, Q says, listen carefully. What will this week bring? Now, Q gives us a link, and it's to Fox News. And this is an interview with Bartiromo, which is the reporter, and Nunes, explaining, why the stroke text regarding stopping Trump didn't appear until the IG report, which other texts did. Nunes wants to know why. Two, because he's wondering if higher-ups are trying to cover up this whole entire thing and clean it out, which I believe that's what they were trying to do. And Q is saying that this is very important because Nunes and Bartiromo is talking about how they were trying to cover it up and how they are going to go and look into this and figure out who was trying to delete this, who was covering it up, who was trying to clean it all up. And we can see that all of this is going to be coming up because these texts didn't show up until the IG report. Now let's move on to post 1526, which is June 17th, which was Father's Day. And Anon wrote to Q, "Happy Father's Day. You are furthering the divine stride of our founding fathers. May you feel their blessing and may they shower keen intelligence, power, and safety upon you." And Q came back with a tweet from Trump. "My supporters are the smartest, strongest, most hardworking, and most loyal that we've seen in our country's history. It is a beautiful thing to watch as we win elections and gather support from all over the country. As we get stronger, so does our country. Best numbers ever." And he went on to say, "Thank you, God bless." Now, if we move on to post 1527, and Anon posted documents. And basically, this is a proof of what this week will bring. And basically saying that the IG report is altered. And if we look at this, we can see that it is altered. And on this post, what we're looking at is a letter to Michael Horowitz from Congress. This is dated June 14th, 2018. And in this letter, it says the following. I'm going to read a brief portion of it. "We are concerned that during this time, people may have changed the report in a way that obfuscated your findings. Per Congress Oversight Authority, we request you supply your original drafts along with the final published form." Now, on the other side of this post, we have an Anon that took another Q post. This was back on June 13th that we talked about before, that the modified IG redactor report, which is the Rod Rosenstein, which was number 3, that's the one that they were going to use. And Trump actually tweeted out, "Hope report is not being changed and made weaker." Basically, they knew that this was a report that was changed, and Congress is writing to Michael Horowitz saying, "I hope this report wasn't changed and altered," which it was. Now, if we move on to post 1528, we see that there's a picture of hashtag QAnon. This is in Barcelona. "The world is watching Truth Light Q." Does this mean something's going to happen in Barcelona, or is this just a message that everyone knows about QAnon right now? Most likely that everyone knows about QAnon, but we'll have to wait and see. Now, or Europe is starting to wake up and starting to realize what is going on. If we see what's happening in Italy, we can see that the world is waking up. We're going to be moving on to post 1529. Q put up a link, and this was to a video of Obama and Bilderberg. And basically, this is a video which was taken out of context. So let me just play a portion of this video so you can understand what I'm talking about. So here is the part that Q put up.
Repression and revolution, that a particular set of ideals began to emerge. The belief that through conscience and free will, each of us has the right to live as we choose. The belief that power is derived from the consent of the governed, and that laws and institutions should be established to protect that understanding. And those ideas eventually inspired a band of colonialists across an ocean. And they wrote them into the founding documents that still guide America today, including the simple truth that all men and women are created equal. But those ideals have also been tested here in Europe and around the world. Those ideals have often been threatened by an older, more traditional view of power. This alternative vision argues that ordinary men and women are too small-minded to govern their own affairs, that order and progress can only come when individuals surrender their rights to an all-powerful sovereign. Often, this alternative vision roots itself in the notion that by virtue of race or faith or ethnicity, some are inherently superior to others, and that individual identity must be defined by us versus them, or that national greatness must flow not by what people stand for, but what they are against. In so many ways, the history of Europe in the 20th century represented the ongoing clash of these two sets of ideas, both within nations and among.
Q came back with post 1530 when an Annan said, holy smokes, they are in for it. You really do have it all. And Q says, Happy Father's Day. Then again, there was another post 1531 on June 17th where the whole video was put up there. And this is the Obama speech, which was given at the Bilderberg conference in Brussels. And basically Q said the lead-in was cover, exit out was missing. Now, individuals looked at the video and basically they were saying that Obama never denounced or said we're not going along with this, but didn't say anything. And at the end, didn't say God bless America. Now, who was there? Well, Queen Matilda, King Philip was there. And I think what this was all about, I think this was a speech. He never denounced it. And Obama, says thank you very much at the end, but never says, God bless America or anything like this, and denounces any of those things. So I think this was a message saying, yes, we're going along with this and we're moving forward with this. So there's a little graphic that's on the X22 Report on YouTube. You can see it about what this is all about. And you can see that basically, I think this is where everything was moving. Now, post 1532, Q put up another video, and this was a Saturday Night Live skit. And we can see that Q is telling us to look at a certain point on this skit, and that's 2 minutes and 20 seconds. So let me play that for you right now.
You want to talk about running? Man, the football field is 100 yards long. That's 100 feet. And every foot matters, every down matters, and every kiss begins with Q.
I think that's a K.
Oh, sure it's okay, Greg. You gotta get woke. It's 2007.
Wow. Look,
so as you can see in the skit, the individual mentions Q, mentions that people have to wake up, and this is a signal that it's coming, that it's going mainstream. And I think all the corruption, all the scams, everything behind the scenes, it's all coming out now, very slowly. It took a lot of time to prepare for all of this. And when it hits, it's going to be fast and furious. Because what they needed to do in the past was they needed to clean house. They needed to gather evidence. They needed to find out where everything was going and what everything was, what they were doing. They needed to find out the flow of information, where money was being transferred to. Think about what they needed to find before they can go and press charges against these individuals and trap these individuals. These individuals understand and they know that they have all the information. And like we said in the past, we're seeing a lot of resignations, and we're going to see people run, commit suicide, because the walls are closing in on them. And I think it's just a matter of time. And we can see it is coming. And when it hits, it's going to hit like a nuclear bomb. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.